Hi guys, and welcome to Financial Wellness channel. We hope you're doing well and keeping safe. If you have not subscribed to our channel, we encourage you to subscribe and turn on the notification button so you can be updated when we upload a new video. You may also want to follow us on Instagram at Financial Wellness Center, and also visit our Facebook page, Financial Wellness Center, for more business, money, and of course investment tips. So today we are going to discuss what an emergency fund is and why you need to have an emergency fund. We can all agree that with the current coronavirus pandemic, we have all come to the realization that we need to at least have some money saved or set aside to cater for unexpected events such as the coronavirus, or even things like sicknesses or job loss or even business closure. And that is why you need to have an emergency fund and learn how to create one. So I'll start with defining what an emergency fund is to help you get the concept and understand what is this we are talking about and why we are insisting that you need to have an emergency fund. An emergency fund is a personal budget or money set aside to cater for unexpected events or mishaps that you had not planned for. Example of unexpected events could be a fire, or a job loss, or a business closure, or a pandemic like the one we are having right now, coronavirus. So when you have an emergency fund, it helps you go through these events without having to feel the pain of the financial pain that such kind of events do cause. So simply put, an emergency fund is your financial safety net. It safeguards you during occurrence of unexpected things, and it provides you an opportunity where you can have money to spend even when something that you did not plan for comes up. And just to note is that it is important for you to save your emergency fund in a tool that is easily accessible. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you are saving for an emergency fund portfolio, put your money in an account or an investment tool that you can easily access whenever the emergency comes up. It does not make sense you create an emergency fund and the money you put it in a fixed deposit account or an account which you only have access once in a year. So when this emergency comes up or when an unexpected event comes up, how will you access the money? So it is very important for you to ensure that you store the money in a tool that you can easily access at maximum within 48 hours. That is all you need to know about an emergency fund. And as you can now know, or now that you are aware, it is very crucial for you to have it. Also, you do not need to have a huge sum of money to start an emergency fund. You can start with as low as $10 or even $100. You don't need to have a lot of money. Then as you start with the little money, you keep on building on it. It could be every month you set aside an amount of money, like let's say 100 shillings or $10 or whatever you can afford. Just do it consistently, if it's monthly or weekly, and after some time you'll see that the money has really grown, or it has built up to some considerable amount. But if you're able to save more, then I recommend that you do it as much as possible. You should also ensure that you have a specific amount of money that you set aside as emergency fund. Please note that emergency fund is not a lifetime thing. This is just an amount of money that you set aside to cater you for unexpected events. We usually say that an emergency fund should be able to cater for your expenses for at least 3 months, 6 months, or even 1 year if you are able to do that. Now, how do you come up with that amount? As I said in one of my videos on Facebook, you calculate your expenditure for 1 month. Then if you want to create an emergency fund for 3 months, you multiply by 3. So if my expenses for a month is 2,000, then I need to have an emergency fund for 3 months that is an equivalent of 6,000. So I need to have 6,000 set aside for as my emergency fund. If you're starting out, now you know that you need to have 6,000. So when you're starting out, you'll start building on it, because of course you can't start with 6,000 if you don't earn that amount, or you don't have such an amount. So you can start like every month you put like 1,000. So in 6 months time, you'll have built an emergency fund for 3 months that is equivalent to an amount of 6,000. Once you reach the 6,000, you stop at it and set it aside. So you know that I have 6,000 somewhere that is set aside just for emergency. Then you continue with your other financial goals or saving goals. Why do you need an emergency fund? You may ask yourself, why do I need to put money aside just for emergency? I know we have been conditioned to believe that you only live now, but it's very important for you to set aside an emergency fund because of the following reasons. Number one, if you are paying debt, we can all agree when we are repaying debt, it can really be consuming and overwhelming, and having an emergency fund helps you. Whenever an occurrence happens, you don't stop repaying your debt, but you use the money in emergency fund to cater for that occurrence, and while you're still repaying your debt. So example, I have my emergency fund, let's say 6,000, and I am repaying a debt, maybe a bank loan. Then as I'm repaying the bank loan, I unfortunately let's say I lose my job if I'm employed. Now, this emergency fund will help me to continue repaying my debt while at the same time I'm repaying my expenses. Like I'm able to continue paying my rent, I'm able to continue paying my utility bills, I'm able to still buy food, but I'm still repaying these debts. If I do not have an emergency fund, if my source of income is cut off, for example the job loss, or my business is closed down, then it means I'll not be able to repay the debt. What does that mean? That means that if I'm not repaying the debt, or if I'm not servicing the debt, the interest will keep on accruing, and that means I'll still be backward when it comes to repaying the debt, and of course my financial goals will be derailed. Number two, you need to have an emergency fund when you are starting out on budgeting. Budgeting is not an easy thing. We can all agree to that, especially if you are not used to it or you're just starting out. It can really be hard for you to adjust your habits to suit a budgeting habit. Most people start budgeting, but they usually fall off, not because they don't want, but because it is a habit. And one thing is that when you're starting your budget, you may miss out on certain expenses. Normally, I always recommend that when you are starting your budget, ensure you have a considerable amount of money set aside as an emergency fund, because this is going to help you stick to your budget while other expenses might come up. Example, you've set your budget for this month. Let's say it's like 3,000, but along the way, by the time the month ends, you meet a friend, or you feel you want to gift someone something, you want to buy a gift for somebody, then your budget doesn't allow you, because maybe you did not include that in your budget. So you will go into your emergency fund and take some amount of money and buy that gift for that person or wherever it is, but note it now in your budget. So you see, it has not really affected your budget, and at the same time it has not affected your lifestyle. You're building up on your habit. So an emergency fund helps you to be able to adjust in your budgeting journey. Number 3 is, if you are self-employed, or if you are the sole income earner in your household, or if you have jobs on contract, then you need to have an emergency fund. If you are self-employed, or if you're an entrepreneur, you can agree with me that not every day you make profits. There are days or even months you don't make any profit. So how do you survive such months? Then an emergency fund comes in to cater for such a situation. Because if you are an entrepreneur, and let's say in the month of January and February you made huge profits, but the month of March, April and May you did not make any profit, that doesn't mean you close the business. The business has to continue running. Now, who or what will pay the bills, or your employers? Your emergency fund should now step in to cover that expense. So if you're self-employed, if you are the sole breadwinner, example, if you're a sole breadwinner, if your job ends, everybody in your household looks up to you. Now, how will you cater for the bills? How will you buy food? How will you pay rent? Your emergency fund should be able to cater for that. If you work on contracts, especially if your contract is about to end, I always recommend that you at least have saved an amount of money that is equivalent to your 3 months expenses, so that when your contract ends, you can still live for 3 months while looking for another contract, but your lifestyle is still on point. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you are the sole breadwinner for your household, or if you are on a contract, then you need to have an emergency fund, as it will cater for you on the days that you don't have business, the days you are not employed, or the days that you are not you are not having a contract. And the last reason on why you need to have an emergency fund is if you have chronic diseases, or if you are saving towards a certain goal. Well, most people, you can agree with me that maybe in your family or in your household, you have one person who has this chronic disease, like maybe diabetes or blood pressure or asthma or ulcers. You can name them. Now, in such a scenario, it's important for you to have an emergency fund, because this fund will help you cater for medical expenses for such a disease, or whenever that disease comes up. So if, for example, you're diabetic, whenever your sugar level rises, this is something you don't plan. You don't plan that tomorrow I'll have diabetic. You don't plan that tomorrow my blood pressure will be high, I need these medicines. No, you don't plan that, but it can happen. So when it happens, if you have an emergency fund, it is going to cater for the medical expenses for such a disease, and while still allowing you to continue living the same way, or allowing your household to continue maintaining the same lifestyle they were before you became sick. Also, if you are saving towards a certain goal, example, you could be saving to buy a car, or you are saving to buy a house, or you are saving to go for vacation in December, or you are saving for school fees. It's important for you to have an emergency fund that will help you stay focused on this goal. Now, example, you are saving for your school fees for January. Now, as you are on the process of saving for your school fees for January, in between you find that you have a very urgent need that you need to take care of. Example, you may need to travel to the rural area, or you might need to attend a certain event, or you need to attend an interview. If you don't have an emergency fund that will cater for the expenses that you will use to handle this urgent issue, you will find yourself taking the money that you had saved for school fees to use it on this urgent situation. Thereby, it will make you divert from your focus of saving for school fees to having to use the money to attend to the current need. So an emergency fund comes in handy in such a situation, as it allows you now, if anything urgent comes up, you have some money set aside to help you attend to that urgent situation while still maintaining your saving goal towards your whatever need you might be focusing on. Now, I believe with those 5 reasons why you need an emergency fund, you are now ready to create one if you don't have it, or if you already have it, you now know why you started having it in the first place. Don't just save money or just put money because you want an emergency fund. Understanding on why you need to have it is very, very important, as it helps you to remain focused and know what you're doing. Remember, knowledge that is applied is power. Now that you know what an emergency fund is and why you need it, I believe you are empowered, and it will be so nice for you to share this video with your friends, and also leave me a comment in the comment section on what you think needs to be added in the emergency fund, or if you need any further clarification on how you can start off your emergency fund. Until then, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification button, share the video as much as you can, and also follow us on Instagram, Financial Wellness Center, and visit our Facebook page, Financial Wellness Center, to get more tips on how you can live financially healthy. Until then, stay safe and keep washing your hands.